Good day, everyone. I'm Mohammed Badr, the Interim Director of County Human Services. I'm also a member of Managers of Color. Today, we are going to speak with you and present to you a celebration about Arab American Heritage Month. This is a very unique and rare occasion. It's happening for the first time in Multnomah County. However, nationally, many states celebrated this event a few years back, except not until 2019 that it was introduced to House of Representatives in Michigan. As you know, there's a huge Arab American community in Detroit, and later on this year, actually, the State Department proclaimed April 1st, 2021 to be an Arab American Heritage Month. This is really wonderful news, and we appreciate that as a community. I also wanted to thank the Chair Kafuri and the Board of County Commissioners for recognizing Arab American Heritage Month by having a proclamation back in April 8th. You also heard from Chair Kafuri today, and if you haven't, I invite you to go back and listen to the Board of County Commissioners on April 8th and the proclamation. It was a great event. Today, I want to thank managers of color who are helping in putting this event together. I have also recruited a few Arab Americans who work within the county. So I wanted to thank Nabil Zaghloul, Layan Ammouri, Muhammad Asraf, and Musa Kanso, who participated in this event with me. I also wanted to thank Tamara Barnes, the co-chair of Managers of Color, and Lee Fleming from Managers of Color, who helped with this event. And most importantly, I wanted to really thank Ben Duncan and ODE for their support, and Teresa Kelly, who was part of this committee and was very supportive and helpful through her team within organizational learning to put this event together. So without much ado, I wanted to present to you the program, and I hope that you enjoy it and you give us feedback and encourage us and encourage the rest of the Arab Americans we have. Also, I wanted to recognize that it's also Ramadan for many Arab Americans who are Muslims, and I wanted to say Ramadan Mubarak.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chair Deborah Kafuri, and I have the wonderful privilege of welcoming you to the Arab American Heritage Month virtual celebration hosted by the Managers of Color Employee Resource Group. Recognizing and honoring April as Arab American Heritage Month is something that Multnomah County has never done before. And as an Arab American myself, I'm feeling grateful and proud that the county is taking part in what I hope becomes an annual observance. For my own family's history, it started with my great-grandfather, Nader Kafuri, who emigrated from Syria to the U.S. when he was 15 years old. He became a citizen, built a business, and here's an American story for you. He was eventually elected the mayor of a small town in Idaho. This month is an opportunity to celebrate the heritage, cultures, and contributions of a diverse group of people. But it's also an opportunity to deepen our connection to the joys, triumphs, challenges, and journeys of our Arab American friends, neighbors, and loved ones. At Multnomah County, I hope that this recognition allows Arab American colleagues to feel even more free to show up as their full, authentic selves. This observance will always feel deeply personal for me, and I'm really glad to be sharing it with all of you. Thank you to the Managers of Color for hosting this celebration, and happy Arab American Heritage Month.
Hi, I'm Ben Duncan, Chief Diversity and Equity Officer for Multnomah County, and it's a pleasure to say a few words in recognition and celebration of Arab American Heritage Month. As we acknowledge and celebrate the rich cultural tapestry of Arab Americans, I'm struck by what I've already learned and reminded that when we lift up and recognize the incredible history, traditions, and contributions of our diverse communities, we develop deeper appreciation, understanding, and empathy. These celebrations that we recognize throughout the year Remind us also to reflect on our imperfect union, to continually strive for equity and belonging for all of our communities. One of the ways we do this is by having greater appreciation for and understanding of not just the suffering of communities who have been marginalized and negatively impacted by societal oppression, but the full humanity of all of our communities, the brilliance and resilience, the joy, the sadness that reflects an accurate and complete story. We talk a lot about doing your own work to better grow and understand our diverse populations, and I hope you join me in appreciation of Managers of Color Employee Resource Group in recognition and celebration of Arab American Heritage Month, and use this as an opportunity to build relationships, understanding, and a deeper connection to these diverse and wonderful communities. So thank you again to Managers of Color for bringing forward Arab American Heritage Month, and I look forward to celebrating this in years to come. Thank you.
اشربوا مياه الحرية ربما 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 نجد السلام ربما نجد السلام يوما ما
Greetings. My name is Lee Fleming, and I am the county's Supplier Diversity Officer. I also serve as the countywide liaison for the Managers of Color. I have the honor of reading the proclamation for this momentous occasion. The proclamation reads as follows: Before the Board of County Commissioners for Multnomah County, Oregon, proclaiming April 2021 as Arab American Heritage Month in Multnomah County. The Multnomah County Board of Commissioners finds, whereas Multnomah County, Oregon is deeply enriched by the diversity of its residents and is proud to be home to a thriving Arab American population, and whereas for over a century, Arab Americans have been making valuable contributions to virtually every aspect of American society, including science, medicine, law, business, education, technology, government, and culture, and whereas Victor George Atiyeh, who served as the 32nd governor of Oregon from 1979 to 1987, was the first Arab American elected as governor of a state, and whereas Arab Americans, like all Americans, share the desire to be a part of a peaceful and diverse society in which every individual is treated equally and feels safe. And whereas it is imperative to increase awareness about key issues and priorities within the Arab American community and combat harmful stereotypes, prejudice, and discrimination. And whereas the incredible contributions and heritage of Arab Americans have helped us build a city and a better nation, and whereas National Arab American Heritage Month celebrates and honors the rich contributions of Arab Americans and celebrates Arab American heritage and culture. It also reflects an opportunity to deepen our understanding and connections with these communities and stand in solidarity to respond to hate crimes, bigotry, misunderstanding, and work to dispel stereotypes and empower all Arab Americans in our communities. The Multnomah County Board of Commissioners proclaims April 2021 as Arab American Heritage Month in Multnomah County, Oregon, and with this proclamation encourages all residents to observe this month. Thank you.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here to celebrate and honor the history, the culture, and the contributions of Arab Americans in our community. So this is for Arab American Heritage Month, and over the next 30 minutes, we're going to focus on the experiences of Arab American women. My name is Leanna Mori. I am the Policy Director with Multnomah County in Commissioner Stegman's office. I'm Palestinian American, and I have the opportunity to moderate this panel. And with us today, we have Dana Ghazi, Rania Ayoub, and Rima Ghandour. And we are so grateful you could all be here to share your perspectives and experiences with us. So we don't have too much time, so I'll start with the first question and turn it over to you all to introduce yourselves in a bit more detail. So could you just tell us a little bit about you, your background, your career choices, and how your identity as an Arab influenced your decisions and or your leadership styles. And we can start with Dana.
Thank you so much, Layan. Hello, Rania and Rima. Assalamu alaikum. I'm very honored to be here, so thank you for thinking of me. I want to start by acknowledging the indigenous land that we are on, the land of the traditional village sites of Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Catlimet, Clackamas, Bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molala, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River. So my name is Dana Ghazi, and I am currently working as a lead diversity trainer, as an organizational diversity trainer at OHSU at the Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Prior to that, I was a mental health provider for Arabic-speaking refugees and survivors of torture, also at OHSU. I think so many of my career choices came really from very much caring about the Arab American community, about healing the community, I think, and just in general, like really trying to understand how we can better create healthy communities, communities that are very true to their identities and also very integrated within our communities, supported, feeling empowered, and have agency. And I think for me that comes from in several ways. One of it is trauma healing, and so I did my master's degree in conflict resolution and peace studies. I traveled to kind of learn a little bit more about how communities heal from violent wars or systematic violence also. And I think what's been happening is that there's so much, the Arab American community has a long history in Oregon, but in the United States in general, especially after World War I. And I think so much of that narrative gets lost in the politics. So I think a lot of my work has been to try to focus on that kind of visibility and kind of activism that really focuses on highlighting these contributions, but also empowering communities to continue being able to enjoy their fullest self in a way. So that's kind of how my leadership style is. I think about solidarity and connections. I really care about like learning from other communities and the way they organize and they make their voices heard, because I think our strength is in coming together. So I've been kind of more focused on my journey as learning these ways and see how we can apply them together. And this happened in several ways. So we can talk more about them later. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Rania Ayub. I'm glad to be here with you all, and thank you for this opportunity, Layan. I am Egyptian, and I immigrated to the United States 20 years ago with my husband. I have two sons, 22 and 18. So I did most of my schooling in Egypt growing up, except for high school. I did that in Australia. And I graduated from the American University in Cairo. I studied communications, and I had a specialty in public relations. So I kind of got interested in the graphic design world during my senior year in college, and I started building those skills and then started working in that field shortly after graduation. So over the past 24 years of my career, I've worked in so many different fields, whether it's corporate world, small business. I also did some freelance work. I worked in a nonprofit organization for 10 years, and now I work in local government. So I feel that my Arab heritage and what I've learned growing up is what gave me the ability to kind of be interested in so many different fields and be flexible enough to work in so many different fields at any point in time. Of course, my focus has always been on communications and public relations, and part of my career in the nonprofit world was to create lots of partnerships and make connections with the community, which I really enjoyed doing. I want to say that my Arab heritage really and my identity, I hold it very close to my heart, and I always talk about it. And I made sure growing up when my kids are growing up here in the US that they learn Arabic at a very young age. So I kept that as part of our daily habits and what we do on a daily basis. And I also made sure that we visit Egypt every year as a family. So I keep them connected with the culture and heritage that way as well, because it was very important to me. It really influenced, again, the Arab heritage really influenced me, and it shaped really who I am as a person. And I feel that definitely making connections and engaging with people on all levels, I give credit to that being part of my heritage, because in the Arab world, we really grow up with the sense of community around us. You make connections with everyone around you. You spend a lot of time with people, talking to people, learning about being open to other cultures, being welcoming to everyone. And then the kindness and generosity of the culture itself. I feel that I do live that even here living in the United States, and that there's always this urge to either help people around us or make those connections for people to find the resources that they need. So I focused on a lot of that when I was doing during my career, whether it was in the public relations field or in the community engagement, or now even with youth workforce development at the city of Hillsborough. I'm constantly trying to find connections and making youth benefit from those resources. And thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Layan. I'm Rima Gandour, and I'm Lebanese American. I'm in lovely Lebanon today, actually coming from there. So a little bit about me. So I immigrated when I was 18 from Lebanon to go to college. Where I grew up in Iraq, in Beirut, and grew up through 2 different wars. And they influenced what I wanted to do as a career in terms of becoming a lawyer and helping navigate, helping understand systems that hopefully are there to protect people who normally cannot get protections. That's what started it, and that's how I went onto that career path. In terms of being an Arab, like Rania said, family community is huge. I grew up with 2 tetas who were very involved in making sure our family and our community is well taken care of. And I've brought that with me. That's one of the things I like doing as a lawyer, especially for new immigrants, trying to help them navigate the system that was not set up for them, was not set up to help them, and can be a huge hurdle to finding success, health, all, mental health, everything in their new home. But that's bringing those parts of the Arab culture is what I enjoy the most in making sure our community, whether it's the smaller community, bigger communities, the world community, everything, trying to do everything we can to improve it for all of us.
Thank you. So, given your experiences, what are some of the frequent stereotypes or myths that you have encountered about Arabs? Or if you'd like specifically Arab American women that you can just bust or, shed some light on.
Okay.
Start with Rania. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Diane. In my opinion, Arab Americans in general, there's some stereotypes about the fact that we only speak one language, which is Arabic, which is not very true. Many Arabs are very fluent in French and English, and they have never even left their countries. And again, thanks to because of Hollywood, a lot of people may think that Arabs, when they think of an Arab, what comes to them is a rich sheikh Arab with harem, which is unfortunately a terrible stereotype that is a result of the Hollywood movies. When it comes to our countries and our region, not a lot of people know that we have very old and rich civilizations and histories from the time of the prophets. And again, to them, it seems like a very an area that just has war and conflict all the time. When it comes to Arab American women, I feel that we're always stereotyped as oppressed, uneducated, dependent on husbands or fathers, which again, all of those things I would love to bust from, because we have very successful, very independent Arab American women all over the world and not just here in the United States. Thank you.
Yeah, and one of the things I will agree with Rania, I mean, the myth about Arab women and Muslim women and the fact that they're downtrodden, they don't have rights, or they don't have, they're not educated, they're not, they're dependent on spouses, parents, and it's not true. And that's one of the things I encounter. I don't know if Dana and Rania have, where people are surprised that I'm a lawyer, or, that I grew up in Lebanon and I still managed to go and get my education, and this is based whether on a very simplistic view of the culture, the community, and again, Arab world is big and it's vast, and there's different norms in different countries you're in, and even within those norms, there's different norms within the families. So it's this broad stroke that people use to paint us all as, like me and Dana and Rania may be the exception, but we're not. I mean, the truth is we're not. This is who we are. My grandmas who lived a very traditional life, yet they still had power. They still were able to, contribute to their community, and still were able to do, I can sit here and say stories about what my grandmother did during the war here, and how she stood and saved, a church monastery by just getting up herself and making all the young people step back. So again, that stereotype is really harmful to us. It's harmful to any advances we want to make, and it's just a very simplistic way of looking at who we are.
Yeah, thank you, Rania and Rima. I second what both of you said. I forgot to mention that I am from Damascus, Syria. I grew up in Damascus, and I came to the United States in 2002. Also immigrated when I was 18, and I identify as a Syrian American. And part of the things that I see as some of the things that I see are these kind of stereotypes about competency when in relation to Arab American women. It's I think there is an assumption of that kind of like, and I think this is a narrative that goes deep. And the way the Arab world has been framed is that Arab women need protection, so we are kind of weaker, perhaps not as competent. That is, of course, not true. Some of the myth that I like to bust is that I graduated with an English literature degree from Damascus, paying zero towards my BA, my bachelor education. For example, the literacy rate in Syria for women is 96-97%. So there's a high focus, for example, on education, but also education isn't the only way that should be a measure, because there are, now that we have one of due to long years of war and conflict, for example, we really need to look at how resilient our refugee community is, how really the Arab American community in general, but also Arab women are really showing up in ways that are heroic to do a transition in this to new homes, to new countries, building new homes for their children, for their families. And I always think, for example, of my mom, who is an immigrant. She immigrated about 5-6 years ago, and without her, I couldn't be here. Like, she came just so I can finish my master's degree. She is one of the most competent people I know, and that is not because she speaks English so well or because she is, going outside and has her own career. She is just the the holder of the whole family, really. And she is the one who helped us navigate so many of the different terrains of being immigrants in this country. So I think these are some of the ways that I want Arab women to be, really Arab American women to really be visible, strong about that, the multitude of resiliency in ways that they show up in the community. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. So the following question kind of builds off of that, and all of you already touched on it, but like, given these rigid stereotypes, like what kind of challenges do you face, like maybe on a daily basis, or in terms of logistics, practicality, like for example, having to fill out white on federal forms, or forms like the census, how you feel about that, and also other examples, maybe specific ones that you could provide could also be great.
Leanne, I'll start with that. And first, Dana, yes, our moms are amazing. I mean, my mom through the war and getting us to safety in 1982 and in Iraq, and holding the family together. And this is a little bit where the difference comes from, maybe cultural norms, like what is, me showing respect to my father does not mean, he's got all the power kind of thing. This is just what we are taught. It's just different ways of looking at the family unit and the importance of it. And it gets misinterpreted a lot of times. Yes, the putting white as our race and ethnicity has been since 1990, since I came to the US, been a thorn in my behind, because I've always had to put other or identify it, because I know I'm not treated as a white woman. I am not treated as a white person in the US. I am not given the same privileges, and I'm not given the same benefit of the doubt. I've been in jobs where when the Oklahoma City bombing went on, immediately everybody was looking at me and going, oh, it's the Arabs, right? It's the Arab in the law firm that's done that. I just recently was in Rockaway and went into a subway and was talking to a client in English, and then I had to switch to Arabic. And immediately I started being yelled at by the person in subway. So yes, I know we may look, maybe some of us, more thanks to colonization and crusaders, a little bit whiter, but we're not treated that way. We're still treated as terrorists. We always have to prove ourselves. So putting us as white takes away some of the assistance businesses and individuals, assistance that's very important that they need to be successful and to eliminate some of those barriers. Category we don't belong to, frankly, and we're not treated as we belong to.
I think I'm next. Yes, I completely agree with Rima. I think, Leanne, you and I have talked about this, because I keep voicing it every time I'm trying to fill a paper. I'm like, it's kind of like a 30-minute of an existential crisis of like, where do I put this? What are my kids? How can I identify? What am I masking here? What am I assuming? Like, what are assumptions are being made about me? So it's always leave me very kind of activated and upset, and I want to do something about it, right? I agree. I think a very harmful way that we don't have our own category is that our unique issues get masked in this huge category that is white, that is not representative at all of how we experience our lives in the US. So in so many ways, we are really kind of again feeling disenfranchised and marginalized. And I was reading a statistics recently that in 2044 minorities there will be no one minority or majority, that the United States, the white isn't going to be a majority as a race, and then there wouldn't be any one minority. So if we imagine that, we also imagine where the world is going and how we are still kind of being masked in this category that does not represent how we feel in the United States, how our issues are being treated. We're not able to say with one distinct voice how we feel about issues of that are very impactful to us on issues of foreign policy, but also on issues of economic growth in this country, of historical acknowledgement of our contribution. Our kids still feel like they just come to a home that is an Arab home. And like Rania, my kids know Arabic, their grandparents are around all the time. Me and Rima are on the Arab American Cultural Center of Oregon board. Like, we are doing all these different things, but they go out and they just feel that kind of split constantly. And so I think this is why this issue comes up. So the census is a very important one. And for the sake of time, I mean, there are several to mention about stereotype, but I do feel this is one that, as much as we can organize to change, I think I see now, as someone who works at Oregon Health and Science University, for example, their forms are starting to show, are you of Middle East and North Africa descent? If yes, which Middle East or North Africa, right? And I really appreciate feeling seen in that way, and that my unique issues are being heard. And that brings it also to just not the political power or the cultural, also in healthcare systems, right? We do have also other issues that are unique to us. So so all of these things connect. Thank you.
Yes, I share the same sentiment as Dana and Rima and everything they said in the misrepresentation on federal forms, and it does make me feel very uncomfortable because I don't identify as white, and I'm not treated as one either. And then that makes me also feel that our voices are not heard. And we have to spend a lot of effort to mobilize Arabs in the US just to unite and advocate for the same issue, which is we want to be represented as a MNIC group, as a Middle Eastern North African group, not white. And that takes a lot of energy, and it's quite draining sometimes. I personally face other challenges as well, like just because I'm visibly Muslim with my attire, I've heard my share of go back home, I've heard my share of take that off. Microaggression, all kinds of different challenges that come with the layering of being identifying as Muslim Arab American. I face challenges with my two sons, my sons identify as Black because my husband is from Nubia, which is south of Egypt. But anyway, so they are dark-skinned Muslim Arab young males with a beard. So they totally fit the profile that everybody sees on TV. So I have to have difficult conversations with them. When my oldest son went to college, I had to have a conversation with him and tell him that he is different and he needs to be very careful with things he says. There are certain topics he can't joke about. He will be misunderstood, and he can be labeled. So he can be discriminated against. These are all difficult conversations that a mother does not usually want to have with her children, but we have to, living in this world, unfortunately. There are so many challenges that come with our identity.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And this is a perfect, this is our last question. This is a perfect ending on what Rania is saying. In light of that situation, in light of having these types of conversations with your sons, and this, rise in Islamophobia and the current political climate, how do you think that allies can help break down these kinds of stereotypes and really provide support for their Arab American friends and neighbors and community?
One of the things I'm gonna jump in for a second, and what Rania said about the hijab, you have three Muslim Arab women in front of you, and we have all different degrees of how religious we are, what we want to do. Do we want to put the hijab? Do we not? Do we want to wear short sleeves? Do we not? So it's, if nobody's convinced it's a personal choice at some point, there's three women in front of you in Portland who are exhibiting that. For me, I think what I would like to see happen is for me and Dana and Rania and others like us not to be treated like the exception. Right? I've heard enough people say, oh, this is Rima, she's, Arab or Lebanese, she's different. Or, I'm not. This is who we are. And it's harmful to have us be seen as an exception to what other Arab women, who they are and what they do and what they contribute. And that's one of the things I think we need to break those stereotypes that way.
Mhm.
I'm going to pass it on.
Sure, I can say a few things about how people can be allies. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is getting to know your Arab neighbors, getting to know your colleagues if they're Arab, getting to know friends of your kids in the school if they're Arab. Just make an effort to befriend an Arab, and when you make friendships, then it's easier to advocate for Arab voices to be heard. And definitely advocating for Arabs to be recognized on the census forums is very important for me, and I really hope a lot of people take on that effort, and not just Arabs, but when we have allies who understand the problem and who understand our issues, then we're able to have their voices added to ours, which would be great. I'm actually very proud that the city of Hillsborough proclaimed April as Arab American Heritage Month, and I would love to see other cities around the state do the same. And then showing up to Arab festivals by ACO, Arab American Cultural Center of Oregon. They have a festival every year, and these are the places where you can go learn about Arabs and go learn about their culture and make the connection that way.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. I feel I share what Rima and Jania are saying. Of course, kind of getting to be more involved, getting to learn more through meeting people. It's very important. And there are some ways, sadly, with pandemic, it's been kind of harder to get to meet people, but definitely the festival has always been a very beautiful, joyous place to meet people. I think as someone who really also cares about systematic issues, just like Rania and Rima as well, hiring practices, empowering communities, supporting their businesses, right? Again, I agree with the assumptions. We all also have different journey of how we came here to this point in time. It's not lost on me that I have a privilege of speaking English, and I have an education, and I have a stable job, and also, what Rania spoke about, while I'll also experience microaggression and there's a visible accent, I'm also not visibly Muslim woman. So supporting my Muslim sisters in this way becomes very important, and kind of really giving back agency to that kind of leadership and visibility. So there are several ways that I think the community can do beyond just being friendly, right? Like actually putting the money where the mouth is in some way, like walking the talk, right? And being supportive of communities in other ways. And I think so many right now, for example, are coming out of pandemic really needing job opportunities. Their children are coming back to schools. They might have experienced different issues at home. How can we actually do a really compassionate reach out to understand and empower these communities to thrive as they will in a healthy environment? So those are some of the ways I think about.
And I want to thank Multnomah County for declaring this month Arab American Heritage Month, and Governor Brown for doing the same for the state for this year. We hope it will become a permanent proclamation from all of those cities and states and counties in the future to just help us recognize, the Arab American contribution to our state and cities, and also show that our government appreciates who we are and what we bring to the table.
Yes, thank you for that.
And on that, I want to mention something quickly that a lot of people might know, that we had a governor, Governor Atiye in Oregon, who was of Arab American, Arab American. So I think, here in Oregon, we are always proud to highlight that, because that is also part of the history of Oregon and the history of Arab Americans here as we continue to do this work. This work has been started a long time before. So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. I just wanted to close out. We are out of time. I know we barely scratched the surface on so many of these issues, and it was so nice to have you all here. And I hope we can do something like this again outside of the month of April, where we can continue to have these types of conversations, because these issues are really important. But we really appreciate you taking this time to share your experiences and your perspectives and aspects of our culture, because I think this really contributes to building more understanding and interdependent communities. So it was really a pleasure to hear from all of you. So thank you.
And
Thank you, Leanne, for having
Hannah.
us.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sara Farahat. I live here on the beautiful traditional and unceded stolen lands of the Multnomah, Clackamas, Kithlamet, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Chinook, Molalla, and many other bands and tribes. I'm a transdisciplinary Egyptian American cultural worker, abolitionist, and educator. I've, for the past 12 years, been organizing around ideas of identity, assimilation, grief, collective liberation, and self-determination. In my spare time, I like to work in my garden, help out in my community. My sister and I did some auricular acupuncture for PTSD and addiction and stress after the uprisings this summer. My recent work in public space that you might know is at the Hollywood Transit Center, where I painted a 26-wall mural with collaborators as well, and continue to do mural work here in town, as well as work with the Just Seeds Artist Collective. I've also got a project called Land Back, Land Forward to encourage people to both share land and return land back to the original Indigenous owners of the land. And I'm happy to be highlighted here for Arab American Heritage Month. I consider myself both Arab and African, and Swana, Southwest Asia, and North African, and hope that my gifts can support our community in coming together, in healing, in celebrating what we can contribute to this beautiful city that we call Portland, and to offer differing perspectives and diversity and sharing in our food and all of the things that make us who we are together in this community. So thank you so much for having me here to talk with you, and please support my work and that of other Arab American artists here in Portland as we continue to build and thrive in this difficult time. Ramadan Kareem.
Hello, my name's Huda. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Iraq, and I have been in the United States for 8 years. I was 16 when I came to the United States, so I attended high school. I went to Reynolds High School, and I graduated in 2016. First year was very difficult for me because I didn't speak any English. I remember when students talked to me, I was embarrassed because I didn't understand what they were saying. So first year was really hard, and especially I was a diligent student in Iraq. So when I came here, everything changed and school different than there. Yeah, but as you see now, I speak better English. I'm a medical assistant and dental hygiene student. Also, I also work as a personal support worker. Coming to the United States is a really good opportunity, especially for most Arab girls. We have freedom here. So we can work, finish school, and be whatever we want. And I'm one of the lucky girls, thank God. And I will achieve my goal here. I will be a dental hygiene and another bad experience for me was during COVID-19. I was pregnant with my first child, and most of my appointments were by phone. They didn't allow any person to come with me when I did all my ultrasound, so my husband didn't have the chance to see any of the ultrasound. But yeah. And when I was at the hospital giving a birth, it was the most painful experience I've ever felt in my life. When my mom came to the hospital, they didn't allow her. She was not allowed to come to the room because of COVID-19 reasons. I really needed her that time. I really was in pain, but what we should do. I hope we get rid of COVID-19 and everything get better. Stay safe.
Hello, my name is Tamora Barnes, and I'm a co-chair here of Managers of Color. And I want to thank you so much for joining us for this amazing celebration. This was the very first ARAB American Heritage Celebration here at Multnomah County. This event was amazing. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank all of our presenters and speakers today, as well as Chair Deb Kafori, Mohammed Bader, and all of the committee members who worked tirelessly to put this amazing event together for you. And while it was the very first Arab American Heritage Celebration, it's definitely not the last. I look forward to seeing you again. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.